What is love? What does love mean? The ego and the recurrences. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Riccardo Villanova, and I am the only transmitter of the Ammonia science, a spiritual path which have always remained secret in all history. This knowledge came from the earliest of time, from the Sumerian culture, and was posted in secrecy and only to a few people. But now, for the first time, I have received the mission to talk about it publicly. I want to also say that I apologize for my English, but this is first live transmission that I am making in English. I have always talked in Italian and teach all in Italian, but now I am making an effort to learn and speak in English in order to talk to you. I hope that my effort will be appreciated. Sorry. Today I will talk about one of the many ammonia paths. This is the alchemical path of couple that revolves around love and the relationship. So, what is love? What does love mean? The ego and its recurrency. Everyone talks about love and everyone thinks they know what love is. But unfortunately, other than the physical love, true love is not now. In the purest ammonia, true love toward another being can only be compared to the love that one has for himself. In other words, if you love someone less than how you love yourself, then what you feel is not true love. In a relationship, it is necessary that the two lovers and practitioners give themselves fully to the other. The sense of separation must disappear every time you think or you meet your loved one. In this does not happen. Failure will suddenly arise. Several people who are married or who are living together have asked me to practice together, and I believe that there is nothing more beautiful. But I usually advise against it if I see that the way they treat each other is not the correct one for the practice. I am aware that people might be very disappointed, but in the long run I avoid big problem and without them knowing it, I save their relationship. If they insist they usually cannot finish the practice, I know that those who think they love a person what to do everything with them. But the problem is always the nature of the mind. In alchemy it is said that the king and the queen must dissolve themselves in alchemical bath or water. This is to say that they must give up their ego and that their selfish nonsense must be put aside. One of the other problem is when one of the partner feels cheated by the attitude of the other. This is very serious and usually even a caress from the partner can trigger in the mind a question about the reality of the affection gesture. Another problem is exaggerating in one's manifestation of pseudo-affection. This is nothing more than the projecting of the ego towards the partner to compensate for previous emotional problem, but both in the family and with other lovers. In these cases, the two are under the influence of the controllers or the beings who control the human, beings who control the woman. When two people want to start the practice together, they need to be outside of this control, or they will fail the practice, feeding this controller. The controllers know that almost all the couple will come to no longer bear each other as the practice continues, eventually leading to the break-up of the two. This has not always been the case, but this happens especially in the consumerist world where we live today. The wonderful West of the faithful love has fallen in the face of the desire of the ego of feeling someone. The Western civilization is at sunset. I have talked about even in other occasions, and I repeat today. By observing the couple, I can understand the world. The Ammonio science does not observe society or religion, but it observes the male and female relationship, which form the basis of society and of religion. From them, it deduces everything and it sees the historical evolution. The Ammonio possesses a precise vision, not guided by inspiration, but by a scientific accuracy accessible to those who decide to follow it. Based on the cycle, Ammonio considers it a beginner's game to predict any time by analyzing the recurrences. Recurrences always appear in nature. They also appear in the sky that is above the earth and therefore dominate it. In addition to this, we observe them in the history of mankind. They happen on different levels in the vital spiral, so we can see them in the life of a single person, in the life of the couple, or in a group, or a party, or a state, or a kingdom. Everything being therefore subjected to visible or invisible recurrences can be investigated and understood without disturbing anyone, but only by paying attention to the recurrences themselves. From here, it also becomes easy to predict wars, and therefore also everything that will happen next. But I return to talk about the spiritual practice of a couple on the alchemical path. By observing that people involved in their natus, also now as their natal card, it is possible to predict their recurrences and therefore their destiny. From here, it is decided whether or not to grant the alchemical practice of love. Today, this path would be the easiest out of all the other spiritual practices, but it is almost impossible to teach it precisely because of the disproportionate ego and inability to love and respect to others. It is therefore a painful and absurd paradox, but that is how the world is. I remind you that the first rule and the most important one is to abandon yourself to your partner and to see him as a god or a goddess. This is not tantra, this is alchemy. You should not doubt your partner nor fight them. You shouldn't want any time from them, nor should you expect any time from them. You simply enjoy their presence, and his or her presence alone brings joy, you, and ecstasy and happiness. If and only if that happens, then you truly are in love. Therefore, only under this condition you cannot be the prey of the controllers. In this way, there are no grudges, no suspicions, no disrespect, no fear, no jealousy, no anger, no distrust, no boredom, no egoism, and you will never say no to your partner. You trust and know your partner so well that he or she give you everything that you need without you having to say a word, because they always pay attention to you and to your desire, and you know that they will never do anything to hurt you nor to put you in a difficult position. So, in order to begin this alchemical practice together, you need a strong and deep sentimental bond. The Ammonia give this sentimental education, but unfortunately in today's world this school remains empty and this knowledge cannot be transmitted. Ask yourself why. I gave you a clue in this podcast. So, if someone wants to come to me and ask for this alchemical practice, I tell them to think twice about the reality of their relationship, because even the thought of doing a small thing against the loved on the wall bring terror. I end my podcast here. Love to you all, and I hope that you realize that after all this here and after all the teaching that I have given, my love is true one. And sorry and apologize me for my English, but this is my natural effort. But for correct exists a link that you is possible taken and read the translation. Thank you, and bye bye, and next time.